Okay, let's just get it out of the way. I trimmed my own hair because quarantine, and it's a little uneven, so we just don't have to talk about it. I just thought I'd address it. Hi, I'm Cece and welcome back to my channel. I make videos sometimes talking about kind of whatever I feel like talking about. You're just gonna have to stick around and see if you like it. But today we are talking about Caroline Calloway. So I first found out about Caroline Calloway around a year ago, and she's just one of those people that I find really interesting and also kind of terrible, but also kind of relatable. And I actually made a few videos about her a while back, and I recently privated them because I felt like in hindsight they came across as a little mean-spirited, and that's just not what I want for this channel or what I want to put out into the world in general. I want to offer critique, but I want to be as fair and objective as I can, and I also don't want anyone to ever be able to accuse me of like bullying or just being mean. Something I have noticed about Caroline is that she tends to respond to any kind of criticism, even if it's fair criticism, by blocking people or saying like, you're a hater, you're just bullying me, that kind of thing. That being said, this is not a hate video. So if you don't know who Caroline Calloway is, I will give a very brief primer just on what I think is relevant. I'm gonna try to be brief, but if you do wanna know more, there's a ton more out there. I'll link a couple of articles in the description. Caroline Calloway is a 28-year-old Instagram influencer from Falls Church, Virginia. She is also a self-proclaimed writer and artist. She first gained a following around 2013 when she was a student at Cambridge University. She became known for posting picturesque photos of Cambridge along with these long-form captions talking about her personal life and her love life. She overall just kind of painted this romanticized picture of being an American girl in posh British society. And she since admitted that a lot of the stories she told were either heavily embellished or totally made up, and also that she bought her first couple 100,000 Instagram followers to get her following going and get her account off the ground. Nevertheless, around this same time, she was able to leverage her internet fame into a book deal. The book was supposed to be about her life experiences, and it was going to be called And We Were Like. She got a $500,000 advance for this book, around $5,000. Different sources will say different figures, but it was a really big sum of money. And then she spent the advance, backed out of the book deal, and never wrote the book. And I think ultimately had to pay back the $500,000. And this was kind of her first mini scandal. After this, she kind of laid low for a little while until late 2018 when she announced that she would be hosting a series of creativity workshops for her fans. She really hyped these up. She pre-sold tickets for $165 before she had really planned much of anything or even booked venues. It was supposed to be a tour where she would visit a whole bunch of different cities, and she ultimately couldn't deliver on this project either. She ended up hosting 2 workshops, and according to a lot of people, they weren't really up to par with what had been promised at the time the tickets were sold. After these 2 workshops, she ended up canceling the rest, refunded everyone's ticket money, and released this statement. I think that criticism is really valid, and I apologize to anyone who felt cheated by the price point of $165. I take full responsibility for letting my total inexperience with event planning and greed create a situation where the details of tour were ever changing, preparation was inadequate, and the event did not match the description by the time it went on. The creativity workshop fiasco was also what brought Caroline her biggest wave of fame, or really infamy. A couple of journalists picked up on this story about how this influencer scammed her fans out of $165 for tickets and then ended up canceling them and ultimately couldn't deliver. And it kind of blew up into this huge story, and Caroline went viral as a scam, as she now calls it. I have a feeling that this point of view might be unpopular, but I always thought the narrative on this was a little bit unfair. Does she deserve criticism for a second time taking money in advance for a project and then ultimately not following through? Yeah, I think she does. But I do think labeling her a scammer for this incident is a little bit unfair because she did ultimately apologize and take responsibility and refund everyone's money. Not saying that she doesn't deserve criticism, I just think the label of scammer was a little bit hyperbolic and a little unfair. After this incident, Caroline again went pretty quiet for a bit until September of 2019. In September 2019, Caroline's former best friend, Natalie Beach, wrote an article, you might say an expose, for The Cut titled "I Was Caroline Calloway." In this article, she claimed that she was Caroline's ghostwriter and that she actually wrote all of the captions from the Cambridge era that got Caroline famous in the first place, and that she wrote the book proposal for Caroline's first book deal that ultimately never came to fruition. Caroline has spent a lot of the last year refuting this, saying that she and Natalie actually wrote captions together, clarifying who wrote which captions and which ones they wrote together, saying that she never claimed that she wrote everything herself or tried to hide Natalie. Now, I think all of that is important to know for context, but a lot has happened since then, and I think that there is now an argument to be made that Caroline is running an actual scam. So in December of 2019, Caroline announced that she would be releasing a book called Scammer about her experience going viral as a scam, as she calls the creativity workshop incident. She has been very into reclaiming the narrative and this public perception of herself as a scammer, so I think this was just another part of that. She was going to self-publish her book in January, and because she was self-publishing, the book would only be available for pre-order, and she was only going to print as many copies as orders she received. So here she is once again accepting money in advance for a product that she has not yet created. So January 15th, 2020, pre-orders open on her website. The book is $25. And around the time she announces, she gets some positive press about it. It seems like people are genuinely eager to read it and to hear her side of the story. On February 14th, Caroline does an interview with BuzzFeed in which she says the book could be out as late as April, but probably much sooner. I think it's also important to note that during this time, she begins offering various incentives for people to order more than one copy. For example, if you buy 4 copies, you get a free Dreamer BB, which are these pieces of art that she makes and sells that are ripoffs of, inspired by Matisse. If you buy 2 copies, you're supposed to get a free hat with your book, stuff like that. So March 1st, 2020 was supposed to be the last day to pre-order. However, on March 2nd, she announces she is extending the deadline one more day and tells her fans that the book will be shipping in early April. Now, obviously, some went down in March. So on March 19th, Caroline announces that her book is copy edited and ready to go, but that the printer she was using has shut down due to the thing that got really bad in March and is still going on that I can't talk about because YouTube will not allow it, which I honestly would have been willing to believe if it were not for everything that happened next. For a good while, she doesn't really address it. She continues posting on Instagram and is just sort of not talking about her book. And I think at this point, people were just trusting that she would let them know whenever she had an update. On June 8th, she finally announces that Scammer will be shipping later that month. Now, something important is that the book was originally supposed to come signed. Caroline is I think, quarantining at her grandmother's condo in Florida. She normally lives in New York, and her book was being printed in New York. So she announces that since she can no longer get to New York safely to sign the books, each book will come instead with these signed stickers that she's creating and writing a little message on, and she's going to ship them to New York to be inserted in every copy of the book. Towards the end of June, people are starting to get antsy for another update because she hasn't said anything else about the book, just that it's supposed to ship by the end of the month. On June 28th, she makes a vague post saying, "Shipping journey begins tomorrow." It seems to me like she was being purposefully unclear about what was being shipped, whether she's referring to the book or to the little notes that are supposed to go in her book or something else. On July 1st, she posts all these photos of herself at the post office, and naturally everyone assumes she is shipping Scammer and gets all excited waiting for their shipping confirmations and tracking numbers. However, they never get them. On July 20th, she quietly updates her website to say Scammer is now estimated to ship August 31st. She doesn't post about it or say anything about this further delay on her Instagram, which is where she had been keeping everyone updated, so it seems like she kind of wanted this to fly under the radar. At this point, people are getting understandably antsy and wondering when they'll get the book that they paid for. She's been receiving comments for some time asking about it, and she has mostly been ignoring them and allegedly deleting some. Finally, on August 8th, she posts an Instagram story saying that she is, quote, reworking Scammer. She basically says she wants to rework it to include the events of this year because she thought that 2019 was the worst year ever, but it turns out that 2020 was. Now remember, she said in March that the book was was, quote, copy edited and ready to go. Then around August 23rd, as the alleged ship date of August 31st approaches, Caroline just goes radio silent on Instagram. She's not posting anything. She's not responding to anything. This is odd because she normally posts photos and stories all day long. On August 28th, Caroline's personal assistant posts on Instagram for her saying that Caroline is too busy writing. She does not say what she's writing. And then August 31st, when the book was allegedly shipping, comes and goes and silence. On September 2nd, an Australian media outlet gets a hold of the story and writes an article titled "Where is Scammer?" Then on September 4th, Caroline finally returns to Instagram. She returns in the form of a 14-minute video titled "The Tumor in My Mom's Hole." In this video, she announces that her mom's cancer has returned and that she found this out in early August, and that has been the cause of further delays on her book. She says that she wants to change the dedication of this book to honor her mother and that it will now ship September 17th. She also says it's really important to her that her mom sees her first book published because her dad never got to. Now, I want to be really careful with how I talk about this part because it's obviously a difficult subject, and I really am sorry that her mom is sick, and I would not wish that upon anyone. I also think it's relevant to note that Caroline's father died around a year ago, and she's been very open about the fact that she struggles with mental illness and depression herself. So I don't doubt that the recurrence of her mom's cancer has taken a toll on her, as it would on anyone. But the fact of the matter is, it seems like once again, she has accepted money for a product that she can't actually deliver. She's also ignored or patronized people who have asked about the book and asked about ship dates, as the many alleged ship dates have come and gone. The book is still available for pre-order as I'm recording this. To her credit, there's a note on her pre-order page providing an email that people can contact if they want a refund, but it really doesn't seem like this book is coming anytime soon. And I guess what I'm thinking is, at what point does this turn into an actual scam? How long do you have to keep people's money, to be dishonest with them, to delay the product they paid for that they're supposed to receive, and give excuse after excuse before you are actually scamming people? And in my opinion, I think she's crossed that line. I also wonder, and I would love to hear anyone else's opinion on this, does it matter whether or not she set out to scam people? Because I genuinely don't think she did, but I also don't think it really matters at this point. I think what happened, and of course this is purely speculation, but what I think happened is that, much like the creativity workshops, she had this great idea and got all excited about it. And in that excitement, she announced it and started accepting money for it way too soon without actually planning or putting much thought into the actual work it would take. And now, instead of either buckling down and getting it done, or just admitting that she set too lofty a goal and she can't deliver on it, she's backed herself into this corner where she's made so many excuses and put it off for so long that she doesn't really have a way out that keeps her pride intact. And the thing is, this is where I do have some degree of empathy, because I can relate to getting an idea and being super stoked on it and starting it and then having a really hard time actually doing it and following through. And I understand that anxiety and mental illness can play a part in that as well. However, if you willingly take people's money and promise them something in exchange, you're committed to that project now. You need to get it together and make it happen and provide it for them. And she's had months and months and months to do that, to get it together, to deliver on it. And I think the really sad thing here is that the people who bought her book, her fans, I think were genuinely rooting for her. If you look at her Instagram comments, even from 6 weeks ago, people were very politely asking for updates, asking where the book was, saying they can't wait to read it. I do think her audience is genuinely shifting from fewer people who support her, more people who are there to kind of just see the train wreck. But that's kind of her fault, because look how she's treated the people who look up to her, who support her, who have paid for her writing and her work. And I think for me, the real issue here is the manipulation and dishonesty. I think the post that she made in late June, early July, hinting that she was shipping the book, but still maintaining plausible deniability, that was the tipping point for me when I stopped giving her even a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. While it wasn't an outright lie, she knew that people had been asking for weeks where the book was, when it would be shipping. And I think she definitely knew that people would see her at the post office and assume that books were being shipped out. It just seems like a manipulative way to placate people who were asking where the book was. And that's really no way to treat people who support you, who look up to you, who have paid money for your writing and your work and just want to know when they'll receive the product they paid for. And I'll say again, I don't think that her intent when she announced this book was to scam people. I really don't. I also think there's a strong possibility that she's somewhat traumatized from the creativity workshop incident. I've already said that I don't think a lot of that criticism was totally fair. And I can definitely see how basically becoming infamous overnight and having the whole internet hating on you and calling you a scammer would do a number on you, especially for someone who has mental health issues already. However, if it were me, if I were Caroline, I feel like going through something like that would just motivate me to really make sure I had my together for the next project so that no one could say that kind of thing. Instead, Caroline does not seem to have gotten her together. She's instead just doubled down on the dishonesty and the manipulation. I keep saying she's dishonest. Of course, I can't prove that she has lied about this, but it seems like it. And at this point, the excuses and the dishonesty are just so out of control, combined with the fact that she still has people's money for a product that they haven't received and don't know when they'll receive, that I think it doesn't really matter what her intent was. I think that she is running a full-on scam here. It'll be really interesting to see if this book ever materializes and how she gets out of this one. As I'm recording this, it is September 12th and the book is supposed to ship the 17th. So it'll be interesting to see if it ships then or if there's another excuse for why it's delayed yet again. But yeah, that is it for me today. I would love to hear what you guys think about this. Thank you for watching if you are still watching. And if you liked this, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.